Shalom. I am Rabbi Nathan Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. We are in the midst of the 3 weeks of mourning leading up to Tisha B, mourning the destruction of both of the Beis Hamikdash, the holy temples in Jerusalem. As we're in this period, as we get closer to Tisha B, what can we do to rebuild the holy temple, the Beis Hamikdash, in our time? In order to understand that, we need to, first of all, recognize what the Beis Hamikdash was. What was the holy temple? The holy temple was the place in Jerusalem where God's presence emanated from there to the entire world. It was a place where everybody could come and pray to God, united, feel close to God, feel a connection with God, and feel a connection with their fellow man. There were 2 temples. The first temple was destroyed because there was idol worship, there was immorality, there was killing. Those were the reasons the first temple was destroyed. But the second Beis Hamikdash, the people were very holy. The people were studying Torah all the time, were doing mitzvahs, fulfilling the commandments. Yet it was destroyed. And it was destroyed, say the sages, because of sinas chinam. Sinas chinam is baseless hatred. What is baseless hatred? It is hatred without any reason. Or an interesting take on it is what Rabbi Yonasan Eibschutz said. He said that what this concept of sinas chinam was that the Jews did not feel the need to spread their spirituality to their fellow Jews. They didn't look beyond themselves. He says it's inconceivable that the Jews weren't philanthropic, weren't helping people in need, weren't visiting the sick. Those were things in the genetic makeup of the Jew all the way from Avraham Avinu, from Abraham. So that wasn't it. So he said the Jews were indifferent to the spiritual poverty of, quote, outsiders, people who may not have shared their particular belief. Does that sound like anything that's happening today? That we resent people who don't share our beliefs? Do we argue with people who don't share our beliefs? Do we refrain from having a discussion because people don't share our beliefs? That's what he says was the sinas chinam. That was the trigger point. The Gamora gives a very well-known story. We've all heard of it. I'll just say it in very briefly. It's a story about a very wealthy man who decided to have a big banquet. And he had a friend named Kamsa. And he had an enemy named Bar Kamsa. So he sent his servant to ask his friend Kamsa to come to the banquet. The servant made a mistake, and instead of Kamsa coming, his enemy Bar Kamsa was invited. He came to the banquet, and when the master of the place saw that his arch enemy was there, he said, "What are you doing here? Get out of here." And Bar Thompson didn't want to be embarrassed in front of this whole group of people. He said, "Look, I'll pay you for everything I eat." He said, "Nope, get out of here." And he told him, Bar Thompson said, "Okay, look, I don't embarrass me. I'll pay you for half of this entire banquet." He says, "Nope, get out. I don't want you in my house." And Bar Thompson said, "Okay, I'll pay for the whole banquet." He said, "Nope, get out," and he kicked him out. Bar Kamsa got out, and he thought, here the rabbis were sitting there and apparently didn't protest. Maybe they didn't think they could protest, they would be of any value, but they didn't protest. And he said, "Therefore, I'm going to slander the Jews to the Romans and bring about the destruction." And that, in fact, is what happened. He went to Rome, told slanderous tales. Bottom line is the Romans ultimately destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. So that was the example of sinas chinam, of baseless hatred. And we have been mourning ever since then. 2,000 years of mourning for the destruction of the Holy Temple. We cry. But what are we crying for? Are we crying for the past that is no longer with us? We know that the Torah, when the Torah tells us things that have happened, it tells us things and tells us to remember not for what the past is, but what the effect is on today. What we are mourning for is that the Beis Hamikdash is not here today, that we don't have it today. We cry tears, but the tears of a Jew are not tears of sadness, they're tears of hope. When Paro's daughter heard baby Moses in the cradle in the middle of the sea, in the river, by the Nile River, heard the cry, and she said, "This is a cry of a Jewish child." How did she know that? Because when a Jew cries, there are tears of hope. It is a cry of hope, a hope for the rebuilding, a hope for the future. And we have to ask ourselves, why haven't we been successful in rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash? It is said that he who does not rebuild the Beis Hamikdash in his day is if he destroyed it. Rabbi Yaakov Weinberg, of blessed memory, said very interesting. He said, what that means is, if it were rebuilt today, would it be destroyed for the same reason? If it would be, then it's as if we destroyed it, because rebuilding it's not going to do it. What we have to do is get away from this baseless hatred. What is the reason for the baseless hatred? It's as similar to what Eibschutz said, that we're concerned only with ourselves, not the outsiders. When we think only of ourselves and not our fellow human being, not our fellow Jew, that's the problem. That's the baseless hatred. That is not what God wants of us. God wants a life, us to live a life where we have unity between Jews and between people around the world. The only way to do that is to recognize that, as it says in Pirkei Avos, the Ethics of the Fathers, Ezeu Osher HaSomeach Bechelko. Who is rich? He who is satisfied with his portion. His portion doesn't refer to the portion of yourself. It refers to the portion of your neighbor. I'm happy that my neighbor is doing well. I'm happy that he's successful. Not the other way around. We need to watch our language and watch our relations. We need to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash today with our love for one another. Thank you for listening. On behalf of the webyeshiva.org, I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom.